The millionaire immigrant's journey to the American dream. Mark Parker stood on the balcony of his sleek Miami hotel room, the humid night air heavy with the salty scent of the ocean. Below, neon lights flickered, casting wild colors on the restless waves. At 70, Mark was a man sharp as a knife. Years of cutthroat deals and cold, calculated moves had built his empire. But tonight, something gnawed at his chest tighter than ever before. His hand clenched the railing, knuckles white. Beside him, Anna laughed softly, a sound light and unfamiliar in his carefully ordered world. She was young, Brazilian, full of life and mystery, and not just a bride. She was Mark's last chance at more than money. The visa to Europe was the obvious goal, but companionship? That goal fought with his pride deep inside. Then, just as suddenly as a shockwave, she said it. "Mark, I have to tell you something. I'm Nick Parker's granddaughter." It hit him like a sucker punch. Nick Parker, the brother Mark. Mark's world splintered. His hands trembled. His throat locked up as a flood of guilt slammed in. Had he married Anna to seal his claim? Or to bury his loneliness? The lines blurred fast. They were on their honeymoon, yet suddenly every sunlit street and crashing wave seemed shadowed with secrets they couldn't outrun. The gulf between them stretched into an uncharted territory, where greed whispered and long-lost history screamed. That night, in a rainstorm lashing the city streets like a sudden tide, a mysterious man appeared at the hotel lobby, his eyes cold, voice low. "You don't know what you've stepped into, Mr. Parker. Nick's legacy isn't just money. It's a nightmare waiting." Anna's face went pale as Mark's heart hammered loud in his ears. Was she involved? Was this a trap? Outside, Miami's lights blurred through storm-soaked windows, a restless city dancing between sun and dark, between dreams and danger. Beneath the pulsing music and palm tree shadows, the past clawed its way to the surface. Whispers followed them like ghosts. Every glance carried a threat. Mark's jaw tightened. His mind raced. Was this chance at family a gift or a curse wrapped in disguise? Could he trust Anna? Could he trust himself? A single text pinged on his phone. No name, just 4 words. "We're watching you." The air grew thick. Mark felt it. The fragile empire of control cracking. The weight of a secret too heavy to carry alone. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet hope flickered. Maybe, just maybe, this twisted path could bring something real. Or maybe it would destroy everything. What was going to happen next? Who was the real enemy? Mark's breath hitched. The answers waited in Miami's shadows, just out of reach. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube canceled their subscriptions without warning. Just check out the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Mark's breath quickened as he stared at the text. "We're watching you." The heat of the Miami night felt suffocating. The sound of rain intensified, tapping against the windows like a frantic heartbeat. He turned to Anna, whose face was pale, eyes wide with disbelief. Who is watching us?" he stammered, trying to keep his voice steady. "I don't know, Mark," she replied, her voice trembling, panic creeping into her tone. "I never expected this." Something in her eyes flickered, a hint of fear mixed with something darker. Mark felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He took a step back, gripping the railing harder. Was this all an act? Were Anna's feelings genuine or part of a more elaborate plan? He didn't know whom to trust. The man in the lobby's warning echoed in his mind. Nick's legacy isn't just money, it's a nightmare waiting. The storm raged outside, but the turmoil inside felt far worse. "Mark, let's just leave," Anna pleaded, but he could see the uncertainty in her gaze. "Leave? And go where?" His voice rose, frustration boiling over. "We can't outrun this." Then it happened. A sharp, deafening crack filled the room. Mark whirled around. Eyes going to the window, lightning split the night sky, illuminating a figure standing in the rain below. Mark squinted, heart pounding. It was the man from the lobby, shadows draping him like a shroud. He raised a hand, pointing directly at Mark. "You're in over your head, Parker." Something surged within Mark, a mix of anger and fear. "What do you want?" Mark shouted back, feeling exposed and vulnerable, his empire of control crumbling around him. The man laughed, a cold, chilling sound that sent shivers through Mark. "You'll know soon enough, just like you knew nothing of your brother." Mark felt the words slice through him. "What do you mean?" A pit opened in his chest. Before the man could respond, Anna turned to Mark with wide eyes, a realization dawning on her. "Mark, it's true, isn't it? You didn't know." The weight of her words hung heavy. Every second stretched, the air buzzing with unsaid truths. Suddenly, the man lowered his voice, almost conspiratorial. "I'm here to warn you, but you won't like what you find." He pointed again, more insistent. "Find the ledger. It's not just about money. It's a family secret that could destroy you." "What ledger?" Mark demanded, desperate for clarity. The man stepped back, fading into the rain-soaked shadows. "The one Nick left behind, and the truth about your family. You need to unearth it before it finds you." Panic rose in Mark's throat as the man turned and disappeared into the night. He felt like he was bleeding secrets, each one sharper and more dangerous than the last. Anna grabbed his arm. "Mark, we need to go, now." But he was rooted, lost in thought. Questions stormed his mind. What did the man mean by the truth? What secret had Nick hidden? And why had Anna hinted at something deeper? Then there it was, an echo of doubt about Anna's loyalty ricocheting in his mind. Who was she really? He avoided her gaze, and the room felt colder, the distance between them growing by the second. A heavy silence enveloped them, thick with unspoken fear. They stood on the edge of revelation, balanced precariously between the past and an uncertain future. But just then, Mark's phone buzzed again, pulling him from his spiral. He glanced at the screen. Another text, this time with a photo attached. A snapshot of a dusty old ledger. The name on the front was unmistakable. Nick Parker. Confusion raced through him as he thought back to the man's warning. What nightmare had he awakened? Was this the legacy that had haunted him all these years? As he looked up, he realized Anna's expression had shifted. A veil of resolve twisted her features. "Mark, we need to confront this together." He swallowed hard, heart racing. Could he trust her? Or was she part of the nightmare? The storm outside echoed their uncertainty. The sound of rain blurring the line between past and present, pushing them into the unknown where answers lay in the shadows. Mark felt the weight of Anna's gaze, heavy with unresolved chaos. He could hardly breathe. The storm outside matched the tempest inside him. Confront this together? He echoed, doubts gnawing at his resolve. You mean dive deeper into who might be watching us? Into whatever legacy Nick left behind? Anna took a deep breath, her hand trembling as she clutched his arm. We can't run, Mark. I'll help you find the ledger. We need to understand the truth. He hesitated, eyes narrowing. Could she be trusted? Or was she playing a role in this twisted game with stakes he couldn't grasp? Just as he was about to remark on her commitment, The lights in their hotel room flickered, momentarily plunging them into darkness, before the generator kicked in with a dull hum. Then came a loud bang, followed by the sound of shattering glass. Mark and Anna jerked, hearts leaping in tandem. They rushed to the window, frantically searching for the source. Below, chaos erupted. A figure stumbled away from the hotel entrance, clutching their side as bright crimson stained the sidewalk. "Did you see that?" Anna gasped, fear now palpable in her voice, now slick with worry. Mark's pulse raced. This wasn't just a warning anymore. Something was seriously wrong. Before he could respond, a sharp knock rattled the hotel room door. They both jumped. Anna glanced back at him, wide-eyed. "What if it's—" "Stay behind me," he whispered, moving toward the door. He swung it open cautiously, every muscle tense. There stood the man from the lobby, the cold-eyed stranger, his clothes drenched, but this time his expression held an urgency that chilled Mark to the bone. "I need to talk," the man hissed, glancing over his shoulder. "Now." "About what?" Mark demanded, fighting back a sense of dread. "We're out of time. You don't realize what you're entangled in," he said, stepping inside and shutting the door behind him. Anna pressed back against the wall, her breath shallow. "The ledger, Mark," the man continued, voice low and urgent. "It doesn't just hold your brother's secrets. It's connected to people, dangerous people, who will kill to keep it buried." The words struck Mark like a fist. "What do you mean? Who are these people?" Before the man could respond, his phone buzzed violently, the noise slicing through the heavy tension. He reached for it with trembling hands. Mark caught a glimpse of the screen, and his heart stopped. The message was stark. "We've found you. Get out." Now. In that instant, the man's entire demeanor shifted. He turned pale, eyes darting wildly. "We need to go. They're closer than you think." "Who are you?" Mark yelled, frustration bubbling up. "What do you know?" The man hesitated, the truth hanging in the air like fog. "I'm someone who's been watching too. Someone who sees the danger in both of you. Make sure you're ready for what you uncover. Because when it hits, it won't just change your life. It will shatter everything you believe." His words hung dark and ominous, a heavy cloud choking the air. Suddenly, without warning, the door burst open. A group of masked figures, eyes cold and hungry, stormed in. One raised a weapon, and Mark's heart plummeted. "Run!" he shouted, shoving Anna toward the small kitchen area. But before they could move, one of the intruders grabbed the man, dragging him toward the door. "You can't hide anymore." Mark and Anna exchanged frantic glances as the man struggled, fear erupting on his face. "You don't know!" His voice fractured, lost in the chaos. Then the shooting started. Mark grabbed Anna's hand, pulling her into the safety of the back room. Heart pounding, they crouched low, breathless. What kind of nightmare had they stumbled into? "We need to find that ledger," Mark whispered, desperation staining his words. "Or we won't make it out alive." Anna nodded, eyes wide, but something flickered in her expression, a glimpse of something more. It was then that Mark noticed the small, glinting object in her hand. "The ledger? Or something else?" He opened his mouth to ask, but the door slammed again, echoing through the suffocating silence as the chase raced on. "Who are you really?" he thought, staring into her eyes. With each heartbeat, a chilling sense of distrust seeped in. His empire was crumbling, but he had no idea how deep the betrayal cut. Mark's heart pounded as chaos erupted around them. He squeezed Anna's hand, eyes darting from the door to her face. "We need to move, now." But the pounding in his chest wasn't just fear. It was doubt. As they crouched in the cramped kitchen space, all he could think about was the ledger and the darkness closing in around them. This was bigger than just him, bigger than them. "Mark!" Anna's voice was a whisper, her eyes scanning the shadows. What if we're caught up in something we can't control? Just stick with me, he urged, trying to sound firm. But his voice betrayed him, cracking like glass. Then a loud crash echoed from the living room, shattering the suffocating silence. Mark darted to the door, practically yanking it open with adrenaline-fueled strength. The scene in the next room was a nightmare come to life. The masked figures stood over the man from the lobby, who lay on the floor. His body twisted unnaturally. They laughed, a sick sound that twisted Mark's stomach. "Get back," he shouted, pushing Anna behind him again. But suddenly, a figure from the back of the group stepped into the dim light, tall, athletic, and the last person Mark expected to see. Samson, his childhood friend and confidence, now a ghost from the past, emerged from the shadows. "Sam?" Mark's voice trailed off, disbelief washing over him. "What are you doing here?" Samson's eyes bore into Mark, urgency written across his features. "It's not what you think, Mark. You're in danger." The masked figures turned abruptly, snarling at the interruption. "Stay out of this, renegade," one growled, pointing their weapon. "Renegade?" Mark's heart braced. "What's happening? What's your connection to them?" "Enough questions," Samson shot back, his voice a whip. "Just know that this whole thing leads back to the ledger. And Anna? She's not who you think she is." Mark felt time stop. Anna's face paled, the tension in her shoulders coiling tighter. I haven't lied to you. Please." "Not a lie, just an omission," Samson spat, taking a step forward. "You don't want to know the truth, Mark." Pain sliced through him, each word a dagger. "What truth?" His voice broke, the foundation of his world shaking. "Anna is connected to the legacy just as much as you," Samson continued, glancing at her with a mix of sadness and fury. "She's not just Nick's granddaughter. She's carrying the weight of a deal that can destroy you both." "What kind of deal?" Mark demanded, choking on betrayal. But before Sam could respond, the masked figures lunged forward, chaos erupting anew. Mark's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Anna's arm, clutching the small, glinting object she had been holding. "Is this the ledger?" "Mark, no!" she gasped. "Let's find out." He yanked it from her grasp, tearing it open. A flash of shame crossed her face as the pages revealed names and dates, unfamiliar connections that felt like poison. But then, one name leaped out, clear as day. "Not just Nick. There's a family of criminals tied to us." Mark's voice fell to a whisper, the implications shattering his reality. "You don't understand. It was all to protect you," Anna cried, desperation flooding her voice. "Protect me?" The betrayal twisted like a knife in his gut. "Or trap me." Just then, the masked figures surged forward, weapons raised. In that split second, clarity struck Mark. The man lying on the floor, a pawn just like them, caught in a game much bigger than he could handle. "Sam, get Anna out!" Mark shouted, adrenaline surging. He pushed them both toward the back exit. But before they could escape, sirens wailed outside, a sudden shriek cutting through the chaos. Hope flared for a moment, but then burst open. Officers in bulletproof vests filled the small room. "On the ground! Hands up!" Mark faltered, caught between the chaos and clarity. As the officers moved to apprehend the masked figures, he felt Anna's eyes on him, pleading. "Mark, don't you see? You don't know who's really watching you." "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, a barrage of questions erupted from the officers, and the masked figures were taken down in a frenzy, screams mingling with the sirens. And deep inside, amid all the confusion, a burning suspicion ignited. Was Anna truly an ally or a hidden enemy? In the flurry of lights and chaos, the truth spun out of reach. Who was really watching? What was the legacy that linked them all? And could Mark trust anyone at all? As the shadows of the night closed in tighter, Mark whispered to himself, "What have I walked into?" And with that question hanging heavy in the air, the realization struck. This nightmare was only just beginning. Mark felt the weight of Anna's gaze, the masked figures milling around, and the officers rising to the chaos. The tension was suffocating, each heartbeat hammered louder than the sirens blaring outside. "What have I walked into?" he whispered to himself, feeling the foundations of his world shift underfoot. She had claimed loyalty, yet here they were, caught in this web of deceit. Just then, the man from the lobby, lying motionless on the floor, twitched. Mark's breath caught, an irrational hope flaring. Maybe he could shed light on this nightmare. But as Mark moved closer, something in the air changed. The man's eyes flickered open, glazed and distant, yet fierce with a hidden knowing. "You need to listen carefully," he croaked, voice breaking like glass. "Nick's ledger isn't just a family issue. It's a map to something much darker." Mark leaned in closer, his brows furrowing. "What do you mean? What are you hiding?" Anna stepped forward. "Mark, please, he's in shock." Before she could finish, the man's eyes locked on Mark's. "The deal your brother made wasn't just for money. It involved blood. Your family isn't what you think it is." Time froze. Blood? What was he talking about? An icy wave washed over Mark, his stomach twisting. But it didn't stop there. Just then, another flash of movement caught his eye. Amid the chaos, one of the masked figures managed to slit free, darting for the door. "Hey!" an officer yelled, but the intruder was faster, vanishing into the dark Miami night. "Stop them!" Mark shouted, his voice cutting through the noise, instincts kicking in. But as the officer raced after the intruder, a deafening boom shook the hotel, the kind that rattled bones. Mark stumbled back, his heart in his throat. Then, a flash of light. Gunfire erupted from the hallway, followed by screams and cries from terrified guests. "No!" Mark howled, his pulse racing. He whipped around, but Anna had already moved, slipping towards the back door in a heartbeat, her eyes wide. "Anna!" he shouted, weaving through the chaos, trying to follow her. But the room felt like a whirlwind, bodies colliding as panic erupted. She was halfway through the door when Mark reached out. Just then, the man on the floor gasped sharply, and something fell from his hand, a small, leather-bound journal, barely visible under the flickering hotel lights. "Mark!" Anna cried, hesitating for a moment. "Come on!" But the journal pulsed with energy, a dark allure. He snatched it up, feeling the weight of secrets pressed inside. His fingers trembled as he opened it, revealing pages filled with cryptic notes and names, dark names that twisted like shadows in his mind. "Mark!" Anna screamed, desperation in her voice. He looked up, mind racing as the world spun around them. "Wait, Anna! This is it! This could explain everything!" But she hesitated, her expression shifting. Suddenly, a memory hit him. A whispered name from long ago. One that sent cold shards of recognition racing down his spine. "Anna, who are you really?" Just then, the intruder burst back through the hotel doors, breathless and wild-eyed, clutching something in his fist. In a frantic rush, he shouted, "You need to listen. They're coming for you all." Mark's heart stopped, a sick realization hitting him hard. "Who is they?" he shouted, but the answer was drowned out by the roar of gunfire echoing from outside. Anna stepped forward, her expression twisting. "I can explain everything, but not here." Suddenly, the man from the floor gripped Mark's wrist, pain shooting through him. "Your blood holds the key, not just to your brother's legacy. You need to make a choice." Before he could say more, the intruder screamed, "Move now!" A deafening crash sounded as the door splintered. In that moment, clarity fell like a heavy curtain. Each second felt like an eternity, and a chilling truth hung in the air. Someone wasn't telling the whole story. Mark looked from Anna to the man on the floor. What choice? What blood? Just as he thought he had the answers, the world around him shifted again. Everything he thought he knew unraveled, leaving him gasping for breath on the edge of a truth far deeper than he could imagine. With urgency spilling over, Mark had to decide. But as the door buckled under pressure and shadows invaded their sanctuary, all he could think was, what if I'm too late? And just as they braced for the unknown, the chilling echo of footsteps filled the hallway, drowning them in darkness. As the door buckled under the pressure, Mark's breath quickened. He grasped the leather-bound journal, feeling its weight in his hands. The room buzzed with tension, and uncertainty wrapped around him like a thick fog. He instinctively turned to Anna, her eyes wide with fear, confusion, and something deeper, a flicker of guilt. "Anna, we have to go," he shouted, the urgency crashing over him. "Not without the truth," she yelled back, panic narrowing her gaze. But before he could respond, the door burst open, crashing against the wall. A figure lunged into the room, weapon drawn and face masked. Mark's instincts kicked in. He shoved Anna behind him, just as the masked man swung his gun. But he didn't fire. Instead, he gawked, eyes wide. "Wait! It's you!" the intruder exclaimed, pointing at the man on the floor, who struggled to his feet, bloody but alive. "What do you want?" Mark spat, heart racing as the scene unfolded. "Shut the hell up!" the masked man barked, tension radiating off him like steam. "You need to back off. You don't know what you're messing with." Just then, the man from the lobby turned toward Mark, drawing in a ragged breath. "You don't get it, Mark. This goes beyond you. This goes back generations." "What?" Breath caught in Mark's throat. The chaos shifted, all eyes on the journal in his hand. "That ledger holds a history none of you can comprehend. It links all of you," the man said, his voice breaking. "Your family, Anna's family, they made a deal with a powerful group, and that group is enacting the payment now." A flash of recognition sparked in Mark's mind. "What do you mean by payment?" Before the man could answer, the bubbling tension snapped. The intruder suddenly launched himself into the room, as if he were a thing alive. A barrage of bullets erupted, piercing the air, the echo reflecting off the walls. "Run!" Mark screamed, but time stretched thin. He felt Anna's hand slip from his grip. He spun just in time to see her backing away, eyes wide. "You have to understand, Mark. There's something you need to know." "What?" Panic clawed at his insides. A sharp crack filled the air. Mark blinked hard, the world spinning. Anna hesitated, and in that heartbeat, a tear slid down her cheek. I'm not who you think I am." "What do you mean?" he asked, confusion and fear pumping through him. She took a deep breath, voice trembling. "I'm Nick's daughter, not his granddaughter." Mark felt the ground shift beneath him, reality fracturing like glass. "No, that's impossible!" "Mark, you need to listen." Her tone shifted, urgency flooding her words. "I was sent here to retrieve the ledger, but my loyalty is to the family." The intruder roared back, grabbing Mark's collar, desperation in his eyes. "You're tangled up in this legacy, Parker. You need to leave before it's too late." But Mark couldn't tear his gaze from Anna. A betrayal deeper than he could fathom twisted inside him. "But why didn't you—" "Because I wanted to protect you," Anna screamed, tears streaming down her face. "But they're coming for both of us. They want revenge for what your family took." Before he could process this revelation, another boom echoed across the room, and the masked intruder was knocked back against the wall, grunting in pain. Everything crashed together. Betrayal, fear, anger. Mark was left gasping. Chaos erupted again. "Get down!" someone shouted. Mark instinctively dove for Anna, but she pulled back, away from him, and the truth crashed down harder than a wave in a storm. She was here for him, but for what? To save him or to fulfill the family legacy? And as sirens blared in the distance, both fear and fury coiling tight in his chest, Mark realized he might have to fight for his life against those he thought he could trust. Family and enemies blended so seamlessly that he couldn't tell who was who. "What have I gotten into?" he murmured, realization settling in like a lead weight, knowing whatever came next could change everything they believed. Mark felt the weight of Anna's gaze, the masked figures milling around, and the officers rising to the chaos. The tension was suffocating, each heartbeat hammered louder than the sirens blaring outside. "What have I walked into?" he whispered to himself, feeling the foundations of his world shift underfoot. As the officers handcuffed the masked intruders, Mark's heart raced. Maybe he could shed light on this nightmare. But as Mark moved closer, something in the air changed. The man's eyes flickered open, glazed and distant, yet fierce with a hidden knowing. "You need to listen carefully," he croaked, voice breaking like glass. "Nick's ledger isn't just a family issue. It's a map to something much darker." Mark leaned in closer, his brows furrowing. "What do you mean? What are you hiding?" Anna stepped forward. "Mark, please. He's in shock." Before she could finish, the man's eyes locked on Mark's. "The deal your brother made wasn't just for money. It involved blood. Your family isn't what you think it is." Time froze. Blood? What was he talking about? An icy wave washed over Mark, his stomach twisting. But it didn't stop there. Just then, another flash of movement caught his eye. Amid the chaos, one of the masked figures managed to slip free, darting for the door. "Hey!" an officer yelled, but the intruder was faster, vanishing into the dark Miami night. "Stop them!" Mark shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. But as the officer raced after the intruder, a deafening boo shook the hotel, the kind that rattled bones. Mark stumbled back, his heart in his throat. Then, a flash of light. Gunfire erupted from the hallway, followed by screams and cries from terrified guests. "No!" Mark howled, his pulse racing. He whipped around, but Anna had already moved, slipping towards the back door in a heartbeat, her eyes wide. "Anna!" he shouted, weaving through the chaos, trying to follow her. But the room felt like a whirlwind, bodies colliding as panic erupted. She was halfway through the door when Mark reached out. Just then, the man on the floor gasped sharply, and something fell from his hand. A small, leather-bound journal, barely visible under the flickering hotel lights. "Mark!" Anna cried, hesitating for a moment. "Come on!" But the journal pulsed with energy, a dark allure. He snatched it up, feeling the weight of secrets pressed inside. His fingers trembled as he opened it, revealing pages filled with cryptic notes and names, dark names that twisted like shadows in his mind. "Mark!" Anna screamed, tears streaming down her face. "You have to understand. They know your family." "What do you mean?" he asked, confusion and fear pumping through him. She took a deep breath, voice trembling. "I'm Nick's daughter, not his granddaughter." Mark felt the ground shift beneath him, reality fracturing like glass. "No, that's impossible." "Because I wanted to protect you," Anna screamed, tears streaming down her face. "But they're coming for both of us. They want revenge for what your family took." Before he could process this revelation, another boom echoed across the room, and the masked intruder was knocked back against the wall, grunting in pain. Everything crashed together. Betrayal, fear, anger. Mark was left gasping. Chaos erupted again. "Get down!" someone shouted. Mark instinctively dove for Anna, but she pulled back, away from him, and the truth crashed down harder than a wave in a storm. She was here for him, but for what? To save him? or to fulfill the family legacy? And as sirens blared in the distance, both fear and fury coiling tight in his chest, Mark realized he might have to fight for his life against those he thought he could trust. Family and enemies blended so seamlessly that he couldn't tell who was who. "What have I gotten into?" he murmured, realization settling in like a lead weight, knowing whatever came next could change everything they believed. Just then, in the midst of the turmoil, a figure emerged from the shadows, the same intruder who had escaped earlier. He burst through the door, breathing heavily, eyes wild with panic. "They're coming," he shouted, brandishing a gun. "You have to trust me." Mark felt a chill wash over him. Was this another threat? But before he could decide, the intruder raised the weapon, not at Mark, but at Anna. "You don't know what she is." "What?" Mark's heart raced. He turned to Anna, who stepped back, fear flickering across her face. "Anna, what is he talking about?" Suddenly, the intruder's eyes locked onto Mark, desperation spilling from his words. "She's not just a daughter. She's the key to everything. If we don't get out now, her bloodline will be the end of us all." Mark's world tilted. "What do you mean?" Before he could digest that bombshell, the intruder made a sudden decision. He lunged, and in the blink of an eye, Anna was standing in front of him, a flash of something cold and strong flickering in her eyes. "Enough," she shouted, her voice firm. The room went silent, and every gaze swung towards her, jaws dropping in disbelief. In that moment, the entire narrative shifted. Anna raised her hand and revealed a hidden blade, sharp, gleaming, a symbol of hidden truths. "I'm not just Nick's daughter," she said, her voice unwavering. "I'm here to end it." Administering a swift move, she turned, and Mark felt the room close around him. The intruder's shock screamed louder than the chaos they had just escaped. "No, you can't!" But Anna lunged, and time froze. In one swift motion, she cut through veils of deception, altering everything in Mark's world. As the blade struck, the masked intruder gasped, eyes widening in disbelief. Anna turned, locking eyes with Mark. "Now you know," she said, the weight of 1,000 secrets crashing down around them. Heart pounding, Mark stood there stunned. Could any of this be true? With everything shifting around him, one question burned. He had thought he loved her, but what kind of monster had he truly embraced? As the sirens wailed closer, Mark was left standing at the crossroads of betrayal, life, and the terrifying truth. What was real, and who could he trust? Mark stood frozen, staring at Anna, the weight of disbelief pressing down on him. "You're Nick's daughter? The heir to this twisted legacy?" The world spun, and a lump formed in his throat. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He had fought for his life, only to discover more layers of deceit. "You had to know someday, Mark," she pleaded, tears cascading down her cheeks. "We couldn't keep running from it. It's in our blood." Oh. His heart raced as questions exploded in his mind. Had he ever truly known her? Or was she just playing a role in a game far bigger than him? "But you let me believe you were just his granddaughter. Why?" "Because I thought it would protect you." Her voice cracked, desperation pooling in her eyes. "But now they're closing in on us. It's not just about family. It's about survival." The urgency of her words echoed in Mark's ears, drowning out the chaos around them. He turned to the injured intruder, hope flickering. "You, tell us what you know." "Get rid of the journal," the man gasped, clutching his side. "It's a beacon. They'll track you with it." Just as Mark began to comprehend the depth of danger they were in, the rune erupted. The remaining masked figures charged into the room like a wave, overwhelming the officers. "We have to move," shouted one of them, lunging towards Mark and Anna. But before they could react, Anna stepped forward, brandishing her blade once more. "You won't take us. Not again." The tension snapped as the chaos swallowed them whole. Every face in the room was a mask of fear and determination. Then it happened. A deafening crash that rattled the very foundations of the hotel. Suddenly, the lights flickered one last time and went out. Darkness enveloped them. Screams echoed, followed by a cacophony of chaos, and then silence. Mark's heart pounded in the quiet. What had just happened? Where was everyone? He turned to Anna, her silhouette barely visible against the pitch-black backdrop. "Are you okay?" "I can't see anything," she shouted back, panic rising. Then came a low growl, a sound that sent shards of ice down Mark's spine. "You think you can escape this?" The voice was deep and menacing, sending shockwaves through the room. "Your bloodline doesn't allow that." Mark squinted into the dark, trying to pinpoint the source of the voice. "Who's there?" "Your past is not just a legacy, it's a curse, and it comes with a debt." Then, as if on cue, the emergency lights flickered back to life, illuminating a figure standing at the far end of the room. It was another masked person, but this one wore no weapon. Instead, he held something that barely registered at first. From the glint of metal, Mark realized it was another journal. This one was different. It was bound in black leather, embossed with a family crest Mark had never seen. His breath caught. "What is that?" The figure grinned, and the menace in his eyes sent a wave of nausea through Mark. "This is where your real family history begins. You have no idea what your father did, and what it cost." "What do you mean?" Anna's voice trembled. "Your father made a pact to ensure your lives, but it wasn't just money, it was blood, yours. And now it's time to fulfill that debt." Everything shifted. Mark felt like the ground was being yanked from under him. "Blood? What kind of debt?" Before the man could reply, he threw the journal at them, and in that instant, Mark's world exploded. Anna cried out. The journal struck her chest, and for a moment, the air sizzled around them like static electricity. Mark watched, eyes wide, as Anna's entire demeanor shifted. Panic twisted her features, but something darker flickered in her eyes. "No, it can't be." She staggered back, dropping the blade. Mark's heart raced as realization hit him like a punch to the gut. Was she reacting to the journal's presence? Was this the truth she'd been hiding all along? "Tell me what's happening, Anna," he shouted, reaching for her. But all the tension erupted in one shocking moment. Without warning, Anna's gaze shifted. A white-hot light emanated from the journal, and with it came a storm of memories. His memories, flashing before him in chaotic bursts. Secrets, bloodlines, a curse woven through generations. "No," Anna screamed. "You can't let it in." Mark stumbled back, his reality splintering as the world around him twisted. He felt the agony of betrayal and rage swirl inside him, and in that moment, everything shifted irrevocably. What were they truly bound to? The night echoed with screams, but as the darkness threatened to pull him under, one burning question soared above the chaos. How deep did this family mystery run, and what had he stumbled into? With hearts pounding and worlds collapsing, Mark and Anna stood at the edge of their darkest fears, teetering into the unknown. The truth had only begun to unravel, and they were unprepared for the revelation that the legacy they fought against was the... As the masked figure stood, looming, a harbinger of chaos, everything around them blurred into a dizzying whirl. Then, without warning, Anna lunged forward, snatching the journal from his hands. "No!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You can't let it control you." "Anna, please," Mark panicked, reaching for her, but she clutched the journal tightly to her chest. "You need to explain. What are we dealing with?" Trapped in the hurricane of uncertainty, Anna's resolve faltered. "I thought I could protect you, but now," she breathed out, shaking her head, "I can't keep hiding anymore." Before Mark could respond, the masked figure in the room shot forward. "Get away from her," he snarled. Fear danced in the air as the tension thickened. "You don't know what you're dealing with!" Anna yelled, but her eyes sparkled with an intensity he had never seen before. Mark stepped closer, intently watching her posture, so defensive yet bewilderingly resolute. "Then tell me!" Mark shouted, frustration spilling out. But the masked man lunged, eyes wild and desperate. "The bloodline, Anna! That's what they're after! They want you!" Mark felt a chill creep up his spine. "What do you mean they want her?" Anna glanced at Mark with a mixture of desperation and anger. "This isn't just my legacy, it's your family's too. We both represent something they will kill for." Something in the depths of her words struck Mark. What was this danger? Who exactly were they? The weight of the journal in her hands seemed to pull her down. Mark's heart raced. "We have to figure this out together," he said, trying to pull her back. But as their eyes connected, he saw something change. Suddenly, an eruption of noise filled the hallway outside their door. The sirens, closer now, mixed with panicked voices and heavy footsteps. Shadows danced across the walls. The masked figure laughed mockingly, shaking his head. "You really think you can run from this? It's too late." Before Mark could react, Anna stepped forward, the tension radiating off her. "Then I'll face it," she yelled, gripping the journal like a lifeline. "Face what?" Mark questioned, confusion swirling in him. And that's when it happened. Out of nowhere, a blinding flash surged through the room. The light swallowed everything, making Mark shield his eyes. Once it faded, he staggered back, breath suddenly stolen. Before him stood a woman, ethereal and cloaked in a shimmering veil, her presence commanding yet distant. "Anna," she whispered, and Mark's heart dropped like a stone. "I've come to reveal the truth," Anna gasped, the journal slipping from her fingers as she stumbled back. "Mom?" she murmured, recognition mingling with shock. The air in the room crackled, disbelief hanging heavy. "You're alive?" Anna's voice cracked, emotions pouring out, relief, anger, confusion, all crashing together. The masked figure faltered, eyes wide with terror. "No, you shouldn't be here!" He lunged again, but the ethereal woman held up her hand, palm out. "You can't control this anymore," she said, her voice steady and powerful. "It's time to unravel the lies." Mark stood, frozen in place, heart racing. Anna's mother alive? How was this possible? What had he stepped into? The tension spiraled into a tight knot in his chest. "Why now?" Anna demanded, her voice rising above the chaos. "Why hide all this time?" The answer hung in the air, thick with anticipation. But just as Mark thought he might grasp the truth, the world distorted. The walls trembled. The floor beneath him quaked. The masked figure shouted in rage, struggling against an unseen force. "It can't end this way!" The ground gave way, and a deafening roar boiled up from deep within the earth, engulfing them all. Mark felt himself being pulled into the unknown. As he looked at Anna, the fear in her eyes mirrored his own. "What's happening?" "Hold on!" she screamed, just before darkness enveloped him. As everything faded, one chilling realization struck him. Was this not just a family legacy, but an ancient curse they would have to confront or perish trying? The question that lingered was haunting. Who would emerge from the shadows when the dust settled? The darkness wrapped around Mark like a thick fog, his thoughts spiraling into confusion as Anna's mother stood before them. Everything he knew shattered and reformed in the blink of an eye. But before he could process the enormity of it all, the ground trembled beneath him, vibrations shaking his very core. "It's happening. It's too late," the masked figure shouted. Looking unhinged now, eyes darting as if the walls were closing in. "What do you mean?" Mark shouted against the chaos, gripping Anna's arm. The urgency in the air thickened, stifling them as the room felt both vast and claustrophobic. The ethereal figure stepped forward, her voice a haunting melody. "You will soon understand, Anna. The cost of hiding this truth has been more than you can imagine." Anna staggered back as if struck by lightning. "What cost? What are you saying?" Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from outside, rattling something deep inside Mark's chest. The masked figure, however, didn't seem fazed. He loomed closer, determination laced with fear in his eyes. "They're here. It isn't just the past that haunts you. It's the future." The air crackled with intensity. Mark felt his heart racing, adrenaline coursing through him like a wildfire. "Who's coming?" Before he could catch his breath, there was a brilliant flash of light, followed by an eerie silence that enveloped them like a thick blanket. They all squinted, trying to see through the sudden darkness. And then, just as abruptly, the light flickered back to life, revealing the masked figure now lying on the floor, his body contorted unnaturally. Mark's stomach twisted at the sight. "What just happened?" "It's a presence," Anna's mother whispered, her eyes locking onto Mark's. "You must understand, it is not just a family legacy. It is a curse." Mark's throat tightened. The world tilted, and a scream lodged in his throat. "What do you mean?" As the gravity of her words sank in, he turned his gaze to Anna, searching her expression for something, anything grounding. But all he saw was panic, building like a storm on her face. She drew a shaky breath. "The bloodline is tainted, Mark. We are tied to something monstrous. If they find us, we're all done for." "What?" Before he could comprehend her revelation, the shadows shifted, and everything around them began to dissolve. Mark stumbled, reaching for Anna, but before he could get a grip, she suddenly vanished. A wall of darkness swallowed her whole, taking her from his sight. "Anna!" he shouted, panic clawing at his heart. The reality around him warped like a funhouse mirror, his breath coming in quick bursts. And then came the voice, low and chilling. "There is a greater truth," it echoed through the chaos. The specter of Anna's mother materializing again. "A truth you were never meant to know. Bring her back! What have you done?" Mark yelled, desperation painting his voice. Then everything froze. The room fell silent, and Mark felt a jolt of recognition hit him like a punch. The ledger, it contains more than just names. It has the key to our very blood. A figure stepped from the shadows, one he had not expected. Samson emerged, breathless and worn, his expression filled with sorrow. "You shouldn't have come back, Mark." "Samson? What are you—" But before he could finish, he saw something in Samson's hand, a knife glimmering ominously in the dim light. "You don't understand. You're part of it, Mark, deeper than you know." His heart thundered as a dark realization dawned on him. The family he fought for, the love he felt, was it all tied to a fate far worse than mere legacy? Just as things began to spiral out of control, Anna reappeared before him. But she was different, her features sharper, more intense. "You shouldn't have come for me, Mark." "What do you mean?" Disbelief washed over him as her eyes darkened momentarily. "I can't be your savior," she whispered. And then her gaze shifted, locking onto Samson. "Neither can you." A cold wave of dread rolled through him. "The truth is never simple." "What are you saying? Who are we?" And then, in a moment that shattered all semblance of reality, Anna's mother smiled darkly, the corners of her lips curling in triumph. You were never meant to choose your path. Your fates were sealed long before your births, and the truth is, this family, it thrives in darkness. Mark gasped, shaking his head. No, it can't be! The darkness blanketed them again, and as Mark's heart thundered uncontrollably in his chest, he realized he might not be who he thought he was. With that, the world darkened, just as Anna and her mother stepped back, whispering in a language Mark couldn't understand. "You're not ready." Before he could cry out again, the chaos erupted once more, every shadow now a threat. And right there in the heart of confusion, Mark felt the ground fall away. It was all becoming too much, unraveling too fast. What did it all mean? What had he walked into? And as darkness descended, leaving only questions in its wake, all Mark could feel was an impending